just about like staying busy. It's just about just doing stuff. Like you can't get good at something unless you're doing it. If you're just thinking about it all the time, you're not actively like, I could think about carpentry all day, but it doesn't mean that I'm actually going to be a good carpenter or painting. I could think about the most beautiful paintings in the world, but it doesn't mean I can commit, paint to canvas to make it that. You only get that by like practicing, man. It's that 10,000 hours thing, man. And you have to keep doing it.
Hey everyone, it's Tuesday. It's me, Dave Bullis, and you're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast. Thanks for downloading this episode so you can hear my sweet, melodious voice. Anyway, so let's talk podcasting courses. Are you interested in starting your own podcast course? The number one ranked podcasting instructor on Udemy, Scott Patton, has approached me about creating a course with him. And in turn, I want to talk to you, my audience. Is there anything you would like me to create a course about on Udemy with Scott? Is there any sort of podcasting question you have? Is there any sort of particular question you'd like me to answer in terms of how to create something or how to market something? I am going to still put up my blog about how to podcast. And if you go to my blog right now, I'm going to have up a couple podcasting articles all for free. A couple of affiliate links, so I appreciate if you click those. But it's just about how to actually start up a podcast. And I promise you, it is not as hard as you think it is. And if you have any questions, seriously, just drop me a line. I'll be glad to help you out. Drop me a line, again, via my website, davebullis.com, or just tweet me at Dave_Bullis. By the way, if you like this podcast, please leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. So anyways, on this week's show, this will be the first time I've interviewed a person I've actually worked with. Well, we technically work together, but we'll get into that in the show. He's 1/3 of the very successful YouTube show Continued, and his new show Smart Guys just debuted on the February 4th, 2016. Here it is, episode 110, with guest Nick Murphy.
You're listening to the Dave Bullis Podcast.
Hey, Nick, thanks a lot for coming on the show, buddy.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me.
You're actually the first person to come on the show whom I've actually worked with. Now, we work together technically because we were going to do that web series together.
That's right, yeah.
And then we both actually had to depart. But you're the first person I still technically almost worked with, so I'm gonna take that as a moral victory.
No, totally, man. That's awesome. I forgot all about that. You like meet people and you're like, I forget how we met. It just feels like, we've just like been in contact and like know each other for like ever.
Yeah, I'm like that bad date that keeps coming back.
Oh
Nick.
no, get out of here! Get out of here!
You went on that one blind date and you've lived to regret it for the rest of your life.
No, never.
Yeah, that it's funny too because that show. I mean, we both left around the same time, and it's like I still randomly get questions about that show because I think they ended up making it or not. I'm not sure, but it is funny though how I don't remember how we became friends in the beginning, but I remember working together with that show, and that was pretty. So 110 episodes deep, and you're the first person I've worked with.
Well, dude, that's good, man. You're working outside your network, man. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, it's not like nobody wants to talk to me after meeting me or anything.
No, and you're getting good guests. You're just not just like, this is my mailman. He's on the podcast today.
Well, he's coming on next week.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
So
I love the post.
You spoiled the surprise now. So now they're gonna. So Nick, I wanted to ask. You're a filmmaker. You're a YouTube sensation.
I don't know about that, but
you've got 200,000 subscribers. I mean, here's PewDiePie, okay, and here's Nick Murphy right below PewDiePie. You can't see my hands, but I'm here's
they're
PewDiePie.
far apart. The hands are far apart.
And they're right next to each other. Because you're a filmmaker, you work for Preston and Steve, you do all this amazing stuff, Nick. So how did this all begin for Nick Murphy? Where did the journey begin for Nick Murphy?
Yeah, it's been kind of like a weird, crazy road. I was talking to a college class recently, and I kind of explained it that I when you go through life, you take these like weird twists and turns, and it's important to like follow them and see where they take you. And like I've said, in like true improv fashion, just said and yes and and it's taken me on this weird journey. So like I was always into movies and stuff, and then I got accepted to Penn State, and I was going to go there for accounting. and I took like a film like class as like an elective. And I was like, damn, I like love this. I didn't realize this was like a major, like something you could like study in school. Cause I like love movies. I made a bunch of like goofy little films with my friends in high school and stuff. So I dropped out of Penn State, and my parents kind of made this deal with me. They're like, well, I was going to take some time off. I was going to take like a year or two off and just try to like figure things out. So my parents were like, look, just keep taking classes, go to like this community college, and you can take whatever you want. Just take more film classes if you like that. Just take that, just so you're in the habit of still going to school. So I did that and just like never looked back. And I was like, oh man, this is it. This is what I'm going to study. I'm going to study film. I'm going to be a filmmaker. So I did community college for 2 years. I transferred to University of Arts and graduated there at the BFA in film. My senior film, played at some local festivals, won some awards, and then I did like a bunch of freelance work. I was kind of like doing a ton of freelance work, like helping. I was like a teacher's assistant, helping like students edit at the old community college. And one of the kids there was like this young kid who's like super into editing, just had like a million questions. And like every time I would see him, we would wind up like talking for like 3 or 4 hours. And I was just like, look, man, as much as I love talking to you, I don't know if I can devote like 3 hours every time I see you. So it's like, here's my number. If you ever have a question that pops in your head, like give me a call. So we can spread it out a little bit, So we're having like this real talk at one point, and he's kind of like, hey, well, why are you here just doing this? Why aren't you like working somewhere, like making films or anything like that? And I was like, well, it's 2008. Like as soon as I graduated, the economy collapsed. So like nobody was hiring anybody. And he's like, well, give me your resume. Maybe like my sister can help. And I was like, oh yeah, sure. 18-year-old kid. I'll just give you my resume. Right. Didn't think anything of it. Gave it to him. I find out that his sister is Kathy Romano, who's on the Preston and Steve show. She emails me one day, and it's just like, hey, my brother gave me your resume, and it's really impressive, and like you're real, and your website is really nice. Like we're looking to do more video stuff. Would you want to come in and like, talk to us? We probably can't pay you, but like you could use it as experience, as an internship, however you want to work it out. So I was like, yeah, that'd be great. I was working this like terrible job in a call center, like unrelated to anything, just trying to like make money. So I was like, yeah, I can totally use that. It'll be great on my resume. And then whatever the next thing is, at least they can see I put some time in and without, just my own time instead of like for money kind of thing. So I came in, and free turned into part-time work, and then more part-time work, and then finally like full-time there. So that kind of like created a video department at a media company that didn't have a video department. So now there's myself, I'm full-time. There's a part-time producer who will probably be full-time very soon. So we're growing a lot. So that's like the regular job. That's like, it's not like a boring job, but that's just like the 9 to 5, like regular job kind of thing. So like during that time, I never stopped making movies. So I kept making short films. I got hired before I was full-time at MMR. I got hired. First, it was a freelance job for this video game company called Gamervision. They were like they wanted to be like Dorkly before Dorkly, or the way like BuzzFeed makes videos now. Like they wanted to be like that, but mostly for video games. So they were just looking for content, and one of my friends worked there, and they brought me on as like a freelance kind of director to direct this short they wanted to do. We made this short. It was a shot-for-shot remake of Quentin Tarantino's Inglourious Basterds, like the trailer for that movie, but with Super Mario Brothers characters. So we did it. It went viral. It got like 500,000 views, which like was pretty like interesting. This is like 2009, back when like, YouTube was just kind of like, there wasn't a lot of stuff like that on YouTube at the time. Like there was people making content like that, but like I think the most popular guy on YouTube was Fred, and he had like 2 million subscribers, which is like not a super ton now, like it wasn't like known for that. So Gamervision really liked what I did there. They hired me full time. And we kept making video content like for that. We made like a bunch of video game shows. One of the shows we made was a show that I'm on called Continue. It's kind of like Mystery Science Theater meets video games. It's like a let's play. But like back when we started, there wasn't a lot of content like that. So we did that. Gamervision was it was kind of like a startup. So at some point they kind of like lost investment money, and they decided they needed to like change the direction of the site. So they laid off all the video people and all the writers. And luckily MMR hired me full time shortly after that. But we kept making Continue because we had made Continue. We were able to keep making it on the side. Just, even though Game Revision kind of changed directions, they allowed us to like keep making it because we just had a fun time doing it. So we kept building it up, and then we just over time we've got like 200,000 subscribers at this point. It's crazy.
See, Nick, I told you you're a YouTube sensation. You see, no, but I mean, let me tell you, I remember Fred too, by the way.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I saw that and I said, what the hell is going on with this?
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
And he got his own show on Nickelodeon too, which was unbelievable. By the way, I actually, not to go off on a whole side note here, but I actually know a YouTube attorney, and all the big YouTubers all have entertainment attorneys now.
Uh-huh.
So, and he says it's funny enough because the dream of all these YouTubers is to actually get onto networks.
Yeah, that's kind of like the weird thing is like YouTube. A lot of YouTube people are kind of like making that step to they're trying to do like more, because people don't take YouTube seriously. People just think they still think it's like cat videos and stuff. They don't realize like how much money is out there and how much like content is out there, and don't see it as like a serious thing. But like people who do YouTube for like a living, they make like decent money doing that. And some of them make really good money doing that. And there's even been a couple like YouTube people that I know that have done stuff for networks, and they're like, the pay sucks. They're like, I make more money on YouTube doing my own thing than like dealing with the craziness that is like a network kind of stuff,
Yeah. And also, I mean, like, Jason Brubaker, who I've had on the show before, he put together, because, he works for a distributor, and he put together a whole package for a bunch of YouTubers, and they made Camp Dakota. And that was released on Netflix. And it was sort of like, I don't know if any of those YouTubers have went on to other movies, but I mean, that's pretty much what they were trying to do anyway, was this one project was made specifically for YouTubers aimed at people watching those YouTube shows.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy, man. There's these whole other industries that have kind of like sprung up from YouTube. It's kind of like this like YouTube, like, I don't know, like kind of like subculture that's kind of like sprung up. There's like all these like side businesses. Like a lot of like t-shirt stuff have like t-shirt companies have like come up through that. There's a lot of like, a lot of YouTube people are doing like live tours now. It's crazy. They're just like showing up to like a comedy club or somewhere else and just like selling out the place. And everyone is just like, who is this person? I've never even heard of this. We'd book comedians who like are world renowned and they can't even like sell out this place. But these like crazy YouTube kids can like do it with a tweet,
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, man. It's just phenomenal how everything has changed. And I mean, it's just, I think a lot of people like, if people have had on the show, I think Joe Rogan, his name comes up a lot. And I mean, people sort of look at him as sort of the person they want to sort of emulate, because he has his own podcast.
Right.
He has his, which is also done where it's recorded with a video, obviously with the videography set up, what I mean? Like, and he puts that up there on his channel, on his YouTube channel. He does, comedy tours, which is stand up. He does the books, the DVDs, and he sells stuff off his website. So I think a lot of people sort of want to use him as like sort of like the template to use.
Well, yeah, totally. And anybody, everybody has like a podcast at this point. It's like, it's just kind of like part and parcel. You kind of like have to do it to kind of stay up to it. Like every comedian has like a podcast in their own kind of thing. It's just another way for them to like make content on the regular to get, people excited about their stuff all the time. Like you think about comedians, like back in the day, they would put out one comedy special, you know what I mean? And maybe do some tours, but now you need to stay relevant. You need to stay like in people's minds all the time. So, like the Rogan kind of like blueprint is kind of like, I think what everybody like strives for, like him and like Doug Benson and like,
Mark Maron.
Yeah, Mark, that's exactly what it was. Yeah. Mark Maron. That's kind of like the people that you should like frame your thing to kind of build toward.
Yeah, very true, very true. So Nick, you got that job at Preston and Steve, and I wanted to, and you're expanding. So what kind of videos do you make for Preston and Steve? Obviously because they're radio. So for anyone listening who's not familiar with Preston and Steve, they're the #1 radio program in Philadelphia. And so Nick, what kind of videos do you make for them? And do you put them on their YouTube channel or does it go somewhere else?
Yeah, so when I like tell people I make video for like a radio station. It's kind of like this weird oxymoron. I'm like, no, it's a real job. I promise you. Don't worry. So like, we tape.
Nick, you're making up fake jobs.
Making up fake jobs and like making up a fake title. Like, but no. So we make so we record like the whole show. We have 6 cameras set up in the Preston and Steve studio. We switch the show live on a TriCaster, and so we record all 4 hours. It's like 4 hours minus commercials. So like all 4 hours of the show, and kind of take like a running tally of like best kind of moments of the day. So whether it be like just a funny exchange, a funny conversation, something interesting that happened, an interview, a performance, anything really, like whatever we find to be like a great highlight of the show, we'll take that and isolate that and put that on their YouTube channel, on our website. And then we also compile it. We compile everything for the week and put that into kind of like a 20 to 30 minute show called the Weekly Rush, which is kind of like the daily one is called the Daily Rush. It's kind of like a rush of like the footage. And then the Weekly Rush is like a compilation of everything that happened during the week. And that airs in the Philadelphia area on Comcast On Demand. So we're making like a lot of web content and a little bit of TV content. So that's just like the regular Preston and Steve stuff. And then we film any kind of events they have, any kind of like stunts they do or anything. We do a lot of performances at the station. So like anytime like a band comes by, we'll film that. And then we also do like some corporate stuff too. Like we've done some like web commercials for local advertisers as well as like national ones. We did like little web commercials for like Taco Bell, Bud Light, Corona Light, some like local Best Buy stuff, some car dealership stuff. Really just kind of like anything that's interesting. The nice thing about working there is that they're starting to understand a lot more. Excuse me. They're starting to understand a lot more the power of like video and web video. Everyone understands everyone understands video, right? Like everyone like gets it. Facebook is like redesigning their stuff to like prioritize video uploaded to their player. So like I think everyone is kind of in that mindset. Like on Mad Men, John Hamm or Don Draper says, creative is the most important, least important thing, or least important, most important thing. It's like everyone is just like, oh yeah, well I can just make videos on my phone, right? So like they undervalue it in the sense that like anyone can do it, but it's like super important. And when it's like done well, I think everyone realizes that it's not until you show someone like a great produced piece of video versus like what they can shoot on their phone, you know?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like when everyone comes up and says, hey, my son's a filmmaker. Really? Oh yeah, he shot something on his iPad and him and his friends, blah, blah. And you're like, no. This is just your son and his friends messing around, and they've edited it together somewhat competently. This is not a film. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's no production value here. Congratulations. You know what I mean?
No,
and
it's a weird thing. And like YouTube is like this too. Like it's great that everybody can do it and anyone can do it. So it's a great like equalizer, and like super not trying to sound like a dick but like sometimes it comes across that way when you say stuff like this. But just because everyone can do it doesn't mean everyone should do it. So you wind up with this everyone contributing stuff to this, like, I don't know, everyone just like making this content all the time just makes like a bunch of noise. So it's hard for the cream to rise to the top, but the cream always will rise to the top. There's just a lot more surface to cover, you know?
And that's exactly what I was just talking about with another guest. If everyone's a movie maker, like Sundance this past Sundance had 12,000 entries.
Jesus.
And the thing is, you're going to have the best of the best is going to stand out.
Right.
You know what I mean? The best is going to stand out, then the best of the best will stand out. And I mean, that's, what Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez, they had a discussion panel, and Tarantino said, it doesn't really matter to him because the best will always just, you'll know what it is. It'll always come out. It'll always stand out. Mm-hmm. And, when they asked him about making movies, he says, just make Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just as simple as that.
No, it's kind of true. It's just like, just make what you can and what you think is good. And, if it's good, it'll go somewhere. And if it's not good, it just might not be. I mean, everybody wants to find like that cult classic, that thing that like everyone's like, it's like, oh, why did nobody watch this? And, they're just few and far between. Like everything that's good eventually will find, on a long enough timeline, it'll find an audience and find, gain popularity.
Yeah. There's two movies that remind me of that. And I'm not going to go with the obvious and say The Room.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with two other movies that, or have turned into cult classics and, and have found an audience after the fact. And that is Miami Connection and Future War.
Yeah.
Those two movies, and I know we're talking about good movies, not good, bad movies, but I just wanted to mention that because they found an audience. Future War was actually on MST3K because you mentioned MST3K earlier. And, that was just, and now, once a year I host a bad movie marathon and Future War is definitely in there.
That's cool. What's weird about like movies like that is that when I was in film school, something that always bothered me was people who would try to make like a bad movie on purpose. Right. And I think that like they never really understood that like Tommy Wiseau wasn't trying to make a bad movie. He was trying with his heart of hearts to make a good movie. He was trying to make the best movie that he could. It just turned out bad and became interesting because of that. And like, like everybody loves these like grindhouse movies. Like nobody is setting out to make them terrible on purpose. You know what I mean? They were trying to make like a decent movie. They were trying to make like good content, and that's the entertaining value. But like, there's some people who are just like, oh, let's just make it terrible on purpose. It's like, no, don't make it terrible on purpose. Don't like make your actors be good actors. Like try your best, don't just like, don't be afraid to fully commit. It just winds up being like it just, I feel it comes from a place of like self-doubt. It's like, I don't think I can make a good movie. So I'm going to make a movie bad on purpose so that when people say it's bad, I'll be like, yeah, I know it's bad. It's bad on purpose. And then when they say it's good, it's like, I know. And we were trying to make a bad movie,
They just want to take a dive.
Yeah, exactly. Seriously.
I'm just going to go in there and I'm just going to go right down on that canvas, man.
Yeah, you have to. You have to be like fearless. I mean, you can't all be fearless, but like you have to try and be fearless when you put your art out there. You just have to like accept that it's not for everyone, and someone's going to have an issue with it and someone's not going to like it, and you're going to get bad notes. You're going to get good notes. You just have to like put it out there. That's where the confidence comes from. And if you don't have good confidence, you wind up making these weird choices and being like, well, I'm going to make it bad on purpose. So it's just bad.
It sounds like every movie I've ever made.
No, get out of here. You were trying. We're all trying. We're like, there's things that I've made that I'm like, oh, this is terrible. But like, at the time I was like, I'm trying to make it good to the best of my abilities and to within my grasp,
So okay. So Nick, going with that, what is something that you've made? You don't have to tell me the exact name of it, but what's something you made and you were just like, wow, this is really just not what I wanted it to be. This is not what I expected it to be.
Oh, there's like a ton of things. Like, I think like everything kind of goes through that weird, I don't know. You're never like embarrassed of anything that I've made. It's more just you look back and you're like, oh man, I was so much better than this. I could have done so much better. And like looking back, there's always things you can change. Like I watched a lot of my old stuff whenever I have to like screen it or anything. And I'm just like, man, my like style has changed so much. My timing, my pacing, my shooting, all of that stuff is totally different now. And I wish that I could go back and redo some of that stuff. But it's a nice, like, it'd be like going back and like photoshopping old photos. You know what I mean? It's just like, then you're just lying to yourself. You got to take like those scars and like those blemishes and just like leave them just so they're like a reflection of the time. I mean, I'm trying to think if there's anything like that.
Well, while you think, I'll tell a real quick story.
Sure.
That happened with me. And back in 2010, when I shot my TV pilot and we finally had, I think it was in 2011, we had that party at Chubby Balboa's, which is not defunct, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's I remember you showed up and I really appreciate that. And I remember I had to cut that trailer together like so freaking quickly, and I was like, oh crap. Like, and I saw it and I was cringing. It was so fucking bad. I remember just being completely just, I was like, man, the wind had been at that point, Nick, I mean, there was the fighting with my producers. There was the fighting with the crazy guy who thought he owned the project. Literally my gas tank was on E at that point. Like I was ready to, if I had walked out of at Chubby Balboa's and gotten hit by a truck, I would have taken that as a sign from God. Like, thank you. This is a mercy killing. Like, I mean, seriously, man, it's just like that project I shepherded that through that minefield. And when I saw that trailer, I was like, it could have been 10 times better.
Yeah.
But I trusted the wrong people. It saps you creatively. It saps all your energy, period. And, that was my real, cause there was a ton of people there too. And then, I was like, and as soon as people came up to me, I immediately started apologizing for the trailer. I was like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Get out of here. But you put yourself out there, and that's the thing. And I think you would agree to this too, is that I'm a very, very, very firm believer that done is better than perfect. At least something is done, and at least you have something to show for it. And it might not be something that you're super proud of, but at least it's completed. Like so many people that I know or that I've met over the years have just had these like film ideas, and they think that like ideas like that are like a fine wine. It's like, well, I'm just going to keep it up in my wine cellar, and it's when I break it open one day, when I get my big break, it's going to be great, and it's going to be, it's going to taste delicious and stuff. And I don't think they realize that like ideas aren't like a fine wine; they just go bad. If no one ever like, if they sit too long, it just sours and turns terrible. You know what I mean? Because you can pitch me like a great idea all you want, right? But like, it's just an idea. It's abstract. There's nothing to grasp onto. But like, if I see any film I watch, I try and take like at least some positive from it. Like if you show me a film and it's like, wow, you did that. You took it you took it all the way to completion. And like, even if it's not what you envisioned, it's done. It's a completed thing. You have this thing to present to the world instead of just like, well, it could be like this, and I want it to be like this, and I want it to be like this. Like, it's done. It's completed. You know what I mean? And that's what, like with your series, man, like you all of those issues, and we've all had projects that are like that, where you're just like problem after problem after problem, but you see it through to the end just as a way to conquer it, just to say that you're like not going to get like bogged down, by like, I don't know. I just like, I'm a firm believer in like finishing whatever you're working on,
Yeah, that is a very good point, Nick. And that's a very good attitude to have because, right after Game Over, which was a TV pilot, I actually did a couple other projects and I haven't directed anything since Game Over, which is crazy, right? Because it's been 6 years? Yeah. Is there somebody at your door?
I think it's just Amazon dropping off a package because they left.
It could be a flaming bag of dog shit.
It could be. Someone might have seen some of my work and got real mad at it.
That's the guy from Continue.
Yeah, right? So it's a fan.
It's a fan.
They found out where I live.
I actually do want to ask you about Continue, but I want to ask you real quick, just to sort of wrap this up, and us talking about, our failures. I mean, because sometimes projects do just sort of, there's not much left you could do with them. Right. I mean, I did Game Over. I actually got the pitch to NBC,
yeah,
which I guess isn't really a failure. G4 was actually interested in it, and then they collapsed.
Right.
Like somebody told me after all this, and after a couple of projects, they were like, "Dave, you're kind of like that baseball player who gets up to the plate and foul tips everything." They're like, and he's like, "Well, at least you get up to the plate."
Yeah,
he's like, "At least you get up to yeah." So
everything that went up to getting to the plate, you know what I mean? Everyone thinks that it's like all about like one moment. It's like, no, man, but like you would have had all of this experience to make it up to the plate. You know what I mean? And like, even though if to keep with the baseball on it, you're still foul tipping. Every time you go to bat, you're still learning something. You're learning, okay, the pitcher pitches like this. I can try like this. At least you're trying and swinging, even if you have like those terrible, projects, you're still like walking away. Like I'm sure you walked away with like a million things, even if that the lesson learned was like, wow, that's not how I want to do things next time. At least that experience you can take to the next thing. Like we did this, did like a web series for when we like kickstarted it and stuff. And we worked on it for like 3 years and we just released it this year. And like, there's so many things that I would have done differently that I learned from it just, it's great. I'm very proud of it, but there's so much that I wish that I could have changed, like, 3 years later in hindsight. But at least it's done, at least like I saw it through to the end, and you just, you need that experience. Sometimes you need terrible experiences to teach you good things,
Yeah, and that's a good point because I was actually a backer of Smart Guys.
Oh yeah, good.
Which was a web series.
Thank you for that.
You're very welcome, sir. See, I remember people who backed me, Like I'm like an elephant, Nick. I never forget.
No, that's awesome, man. I appreciate it.
By the way, the farting app is a great idea.
that's the main plot point in the show. Not a joke.
Well, I was gonna, because I could imagine, I was like, you know, when Nick's probably the guys are brainstorming ideas, they're probably like, we can't lose the fart app. The fart app is everything.
The fart app was kind of like, it was a culmination of like, okay, he's going to be like an app developer who just kind of like strikes it rich, and like, what's the dumbest thing that he could strike it rich, and that in his character flaw he could like, you know, misconstrue as genius, you know, that he's just like, I'm the best because I made this thing. And we're like, you know, farting flashlight app. It just kind of like popped out and stuck. Yeah. That was from like very early on.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I could definitely see that actually becoming an app, because the more I think about it, because the thing is, while, you know, you're right. What is the most insane thing you could create? But the thing is, it has a useful purpose. So it's like, it's right. Not completely just, you know, right. Without merit. So, you know, like, you know, the first episode, you know, but, you know, I mean, you know, that was, you know, well done. And I mean, just to take one step back, and there's one thing I want to talk to you about, which was, you know, we were talking about projects that, you know, maybe we had to let go. The first time you and I, or the second time you and I met, was when we were, you know, putting together stuff for the last summer. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you had a screening about that, and the screening, you know, you said all the different cuts of the movie, different cuts of the trailer. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there were 5 different trailers, you know, and honestly, Nick, I thought it was very well done. I thought the whole presentation was well done, you know, and then just talking with the people behind that, you know, that's another thing. They just had to sort of let it go.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, of different reasons. I mean, we all have different reasons why we have to let things go, mm-hmm. But I mean, I thought that was well done. And I told you know, Brian, who was the producer, I said, Brian, you know, I really, if you ever need help from me, and, you know, he and I talked privately. I mean, for anyone listening, maybe I'll go into this story another time, but because this is about you, Nick. I don't want to go into all sides.
No. I'm actually curious. I don't really know what happened with that. It kind of just like fell off.
Okay. I'll be glad to have. Basically, they hired a writer, mm-hmm. Who, let's just call him John. And that's not his real name. Okay. And John basically kept screwing around with the script, and basically, you know, Brian, who was, you know, the producer, and he's the guy who found the script, he actually he walked away from the film industry.
Wow.
It was a combination of the last summer problems, mm-hmm. with, you know, John, the screenwriter, and the other part of it was he did a TV pilot, and the people shit the bed who were supposed to pay everybody, and he ended up having to pay everybody out of pocket.
Wow.
And he felt that he was obligated to, and after that, he's given up. He actually, I talked to him one time after that, and he said, he didn't tell me what happened, but he said, you know, he said there's too much frustration around here in Philadelphia, and I understand that, and you know, but you know, he's still around. Believe me, I've done my fair share of bad projects where things have gotten frustrating, and people, you know, have, you know, I mean, sometimes they've gotten frustrated at me, mm-hmm. You know what I mean, but you know, but I think too many things happened to him at once, and that's what caused him to walk away. And he's been out of the business now for 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
It was literally almost right after the last summer, after that trailer aired.
Huh. Oh man, that's a shame. You know, it is. It's a tough business, man, especially tough on the East Coast. East Coast people have this kind of, you know, very rough kind of disposition about them. So like, you know,
what's that supposed to mean?
No, we just you know, we take things the wrong way. People from the people I know who have gone to, like, for as much as like East Coast is very like in your face, like friends of mine who have gone to California, and they just don't understand it out there. They're just like, everyone is just like so relaxed. Like they're not, he's like, I feel like I'm the only person out here like hustling, you know, that we have, you know, for as rough around the edges as we are on the East Coast sometimes, man, we have like great work ethic, you know? And like sometimes that causes issues with
some people, and yeah, especially because, you know, we're Philly, New York area where it's like, you know, if you make a bad cheesesteak around here, you catch a beating. Yeah. If you make a bad pizza around here, you catch a beating. Right. You know, if you look at somebody the right, I mean, Philadelphia, for God's sakes, if you take someone's parking spot, you catch a beating.
Well, yeah, we have this weird. We're like kind of like we're like the middle child of the East Coast. You know, we're not New York, we're not DC. We're like stuck in the middle. You know, trying to get people to pay attention to us.
Yeah. And I mean, in Philadelphia, there has been like a talent exodus. I was on a podcast, somebody else's podcast. We recorded it last week. It'll play at the end of May. And the person asked me, he's like, why aren't you in LA yet?
Right.
And my answer was, you have to listen to the podcast to hear it. No, I'm just kidding. My answer was, basically I'm waiting for the right time in my career to go.
Right.
I don't want to go out there and, have to give like ZJs under a bridge to, sustain myself.
Right.
So I'm actually in the middle of a screenwriting competition. So I want to see what happens with this. And, I want to have at least something I can hang my hat on before I go out there. And I'm working on that right now.
Right.
And it's just, I have a few things in the fryer, so to speak,
Yeah.
a few things in the oven. So furnace, that's what I was looking for. Fryer, oven, furnace. One of those things that, has a lot of heat to it. But, I have a few things in there and I want to see what happens. So that's why, I haven't gone to LA yet. I know you haven't gone to LA yet because I don't know if you want to, one.
Yeah.
And two, I mean, you work for Preston and Steve, which is in Philly. So I imagine you're probably, and plus you do continue out here.
Right.
I imagine that's why you don't want to leave.
Yeah. It's kind of, LA was never really like in the cards for me. It never like appealed to me. I guess I never really, as much as I wanted to, I always wanted to be like a director and, obviously like make movies and stuff like that. And, I was like, oh, I guess like I could go to LA at some point, but it never like was like a serious thing. It just never felt like something I needed to do. It always felt like a pipe dream. Do you know what I mean? Like I have the utmost respect for people who go out there and want to go do that. For me, it was just never, I don't know. I just never felt the calling. I was like, I kind of like the idea of being like a big fish in a small pond, not that I'm like, super famous or anything like that, or like any, like a big player here in Philadelphia. But I like the idea that like not everybody who's out there has the same goals that I do. Like so many of my friends have nothing to do with film or video or YouTube or anything. They're just regular people. And I feel like out there in LA, like if I were to go out to LA, I would just be like another guy trying to make it into the business. You know what I mean? Whereas here, it just never appealed to me because everyone who I want to work with is here. Everyone, they're my friends. They're my peers. They're people I respect. Why would I want to go out to LA where no one wants to work with me? Where I have to like convince people to work with me, or and play the game out there. I'd rather try to like craft it over here. And I also have like a huge amount of respect for people who have like this hometown pride. Like I love like as much as like shit as like M. Night Shyamalan has got, like I love that he like makes movies in Philly. Like I love Always Sunny like representing Philly. I love that that Max from Philly. Like that's awesome. I love like John Waters because he's makes movies in Maryland. Like it's awesome. Like I love people like that. Like and I love being from Philadelphia and I love doing things in Philadelphia. So like I would not to say that I wouldn't go out to LA, but like I don't feel the need to change everything about my life to fit this possible dream, this dream and this possible reality I have. I'd rather just kind of like bust my ass and work really hard to make it work here, yeah, not to say that I wouldn't go out there if work took me out there and that's where I wound up, I would happily go and just make it work. But I like the idea of being here and being from the East Coast and being Philadelphia, man. I was born here. It's awesome to be here.
So I'm gonna remember this. So if you ever go Hollywood on me, Nick,
Yeah.
and you go, I hate that shithole where I came from. I'll be like, I remember Nick when he used to love this
Don't
town.
worry, I will pay my lawyers to suppress this recording.
You YouTubers and your lawyers, I know
Yeah,
you.
right.
No,
man, and like, and every I feel like every couple of years there's like this like weird like checkpoint that I go through, and like my business partner and I talk about it all the time. It's like, do we need to go out to LA? Like what can we do out there? What other opportunities would be afforded to us out there that we aren't creating here? Just work already. Like we've gotten to make this web show we like doing. I work at this great place. I do a ton of freelance work that's both rewarding, creatively, financially. I do I get to make films here. We've recently shot like a pilot for Disney XD. Everything that's happening is happening because we're here doing what we're doing and chugging along and not, waiting for someone else's timeline. Like in LA, we're kind of like, we're the ones churning up the business here. So it just makes more sense to stay here. Like our friend Dom, who was on Continue with us, like wanted to go out to LA because that's what he wanted to pursue. He went out there. He's done some great things out there, but we keep bringing him on to our projects it's like, dude, you could be here and we could do this all the time, man. Like you could be out, I love him and I'm glad he's out there, but like, it'd be great if he was here doing this stuff, and I feel like just being together is kind of more important than the possibility that something might happen out there,
Yeah. And I don't know if you know this, Nick, I actually was working with M. Night Shyamalan's producer.
Oh, cool.
I don't know if you know that.
No, that's awesome.
We got to work together. And we actually got to do some cool stuff. He's actually going to come on the show sooner than later. We keep missing each other, but his name is Mark Bienstock.
Oh, cool.
He did the Visit. He's done stuff for WB Films. He's awesome.
That's cool. That's awesome.
But he and I were talking about, M. Night Shyamalan, lives in the area, and why is that and how come? So, and we went through the whole thing and, for those of you who don't know, there are tax incentives if you use people from, certain states have tax incentives. And with PA, basically he gets 2 because he uses M. Night. Not only does he get the big one, which is the tax incentive package for if you spend a certain amount of dollars, but you also get an incentive if you use talent that's hired here, including the writer. So so now because M. Night is the writer and he's the director, he gets a tax incentive for that. So that's why he said he's never actually used that tax incentive before, but it was actually pretty cool. So they were able to make the Visit for $4 or $5 million, and it's grossed over 100 now.
Interesting.
Yeah,
well, that's good, man. That's awesome. That's good to hear that we have good stuff happening here.
Yeah, because those tax incentives are the reason why there was a talent exodus, because when Harrisburg couldn't get it set, all of the productions either shifted to New York or North Carolina.
Right.
So that's where all the talent went, and then sometimes they funneled to Atlanta or New Orleans or what have you. But it's just there's guys like us, Nick, that are still here, and if we keep chugging along, who knows what will happen. Obviously, you're much more further ahead than I am.
I'll get out of here. I'm still trying to figure it out, man. I got that imposter syndrome, man. Any day now, someone's going to stand up and be like, "Hey, that guy doesn't know what he's doing. Get him out of here."
That's every episode of this podcast for me, Nick.
That's every day of my life.
Some of the guests are like, "What? Does this guy know anything about anything, or does he just, And then, of course, the answer is, I don't know anything.
No, man. We're all just trying to figure it out.
I get emails from people who listen to this podcast, and they're asking me for advice. And my best advice, I'm like, look, just here's other people that are much better at this stuff than I am. Man. They're asking me about, college and writing and this and that. And I'm like, I don't know how to, I was like, I graduated college. I worked at a college. I hated college. It's just that whole spiel, Nick.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, I want to talk to you about Continue. You started this show. It's got 200,000 subscribers. You mentioned it briefly before, but I really want to get into it now because, I remember when I first saw Continue, and I've seen you guys build this over a span of months and years. Now I'm like, my God, man. You guys have done well with this. So, how do for those who aren't aware, the show is about, like Mr. Science Theater for playing, video games, and you play the old retro games. So, so how do you shoot that? Do you shoot it at a certain person's house at a certain time every week?
Yeah. So what we do is we shoot at my house. We kind of clear everything out of my living room, move the couch forward, drop a green screen behind it, set up lights and camera. And we shoot once a month. So we'll do like 4 to 5 episodes in each sitting. So that's continues like our main show that we do. We do we film like an intro and an outro and gameplay in between. We have the cameras rolling the whole time in case, we need to cut to us on the couch, like reacting to whatever happens in the game. It's a comedy show. It's a lot of fun for people who aren't familiar, but it's cool, man. It's one of those things. It's like, we've just been doing it for so long. It's just kind of like on autopilot now. It's just kind of like, just like a reason to get together. It's just, it's cool. It's cool that it's like, it started that way as a reason to just like, when we got let go from Gamervision, like we had this kind of like, I don't know, like a big meeting amongst ourselves, among the people that work there. And it's like, what are we going to do now that we lost this job that we all had and brought us all together? And the thing we kind of like took from it was like, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing. Like for me, it was like, this isn't going to stop me from making films or making videos or anything like that. Like, but we did the show continue with Gamervision. Let's just keep doing it on our own because it was fun. We got together. We had a bunch of laughs. Like it's just, let's do it so we don't fall out of practice of making stuff on a regular basis. Right. So that's kind of where it didn't. And we've just been chugging along. So like we're coming up on, Jesus, I guess like our 6th year and already. Yeah. I guess like our 6th or 7th year. Yeah. 6 years total. So yeah, we've just been like, we keep doing it. We're definitely not like at the top of the YouTube game. And I think that like YouTube has changed so much from when we started. Even when I graduated college, like YouTube wasn't a thing that people made money on, and then when we started doing it, people still kind of made some money on it. And now it's just like, it's a career for some people. And for us, we just have a blast doing it. So it's afforded us so many opportunities. It afforded us to grow an audience that, people who will see our stuff, will see the things we're working on, and not just like continue, but like our other projects, which is really nice that we have an audience we think will go with us to like other projects. We could, each one of us does like our own kind of like podcasts and stuff. We all do other video content, and we always see, people from our like continue crew kind of come with us and check it out and stuff. So that's awesome. Like most people don't get that opportunity to have this constant audience just kind of be around them.
So wait, you have your own podcast?
Yeah. I do like a movie podcast with my friend Satchel. It's called Cinephilia Anonymous. It's like,
oh, well, I had no clue.
Yeah, we kind of took a brief hiatus, and we're getting back into it now. He's like, my friend Satchel is like super talented. So we just kind of like pick a movie and kind of like dissect it and talk about what's great about it, what we liked about it, what we learned about it. Just kind of be like a little more like analytical. It's kind of funny because like Continue is so, we curse like sailors, we make all kinds of jokes and stuff. It's a very like comedic kind of thing. And then when like when I told our audience that we were going to like do this podcast, they're like, wow, I'd never seen this side of you, Nick. It's so crazy. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of different. There's, I'm still me, but there's not as many like dick and fart jokes all the time,
Oh, well, you lost me now.
Yeah, exactly.
What else is there?
Yeah, right.
Well, I just looked up Cinephilia Anonymous on iTunes. I mean, for God's sake, you got 50 ratings. You got 50 ratings. I'm stuck on 8, Nick. I've got like 110 episodes here in the can.
No, but you're chugging along, man. We had to like take a break. Satchel's very busy. He's like super successful and talented. So like, he gets busy, I get busy, and then our scheduling gets like out of sync. So we're trying to get back up into it to keep stuff going. So like, yeah, like it's cool that like, we have like an audience that'll like check out, they're not just there for that stuff. They want to see what we're up to and see what we're up to. I mean, so it continues like afforded us like, we've been able to travel. Like Paul and I went to Toronto last year. We might go to Ireland later this year to like it's all these like gaming conventions. They want to bring like these YouTube talents out. So like we might go to Ireland. I think we're going to go.
So are these conventions paying your way?
Yeah, they're paying like our flight and hotel and sometimes like an appearance fee.
Oh my God! Yeah. Look at you, Nick.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's fun. It's cool. We just go out there. We have like a panel, meet some fans and stuff. It's awesome. It's really cool. And like, well, it's a good networking opportunity to go meet other people who are making content like you are. We met like so many YouTube people that like, it's just great. Now we can call on these people and be like, hey, we're doing this thing. You want to jump on this thing? And everybody everyone's in the same mindset that we are, where they just want to make good stuff. They just want to make interesting stuff. So everyone's pretty much down for whatever. They're just here to like help out when they can. The hardest part is just timing. Like like someone always asks me like, what's the worst part about making films? It's scheduling. Scheduling is the worst part of anything.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, but yeah, Continue's been great, man. It's afforded us a chance. We made Smart Guys. It's like a web series. We raised money on Kickstarter. We had a budget to make something. We've never had a budget more than like the money in our wallets to make something with. It afforded us an opportunity to make this pilot for Disney XD, and who knows what's next? Who knows what's going to come around from this weird little web show where we, make fun of video games all day.
Well, Nick, I had on Michael Rousselet. I think that's his name. I always butcher last names here. and he's from 5 Second Films, and
I like those guys a lot. Yeah, they just did they just did a feature film, didn't they?
Dude, Bro Party Massacre 3.
Yeah, I want to see it. That's awesome.
You should come over to my house. I have the Blu-ray.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll get like a sleepover thing going.
I love popcorn.
We'll prank call some people and shit. Light bags of dog shit on people's
exactly.
So we talked about you when he came on the podcast.
Oh, really?
And that's one of the things he talked about was he says he never thought about it, but he said when they went to do this Kickstarter, he goes, what the hell are we going to be able to do with it? Because they were doing 5 Second Films, they were doing a YouTube thing, and he's like, well, what should we do? When they finally launched it, and they were able to do the whole entire movie. And he said, he was blown away that they were able to do that.
Yeah, our Kickstarter was very similar. Like before we launched, we had like a talk. Like the way Kickstarter works is like if you don't make your goal, like you don't get any of the money. Like none of the money gets taken out, and you don't get it. So, we were like, okay, well, what happens if we're like, $5,000 short? And everyone was like, well, I don't know, maybe I could like ask my parents. I could like scrounge, I have some savings. We could put that into it. So everyone was in like a great spot for it because we just wanted it to happen. And then we launched, and 6 hours later we were funded. It was insane. We like underestimated our audience in the sense that like we didn't think that they would be on board for something that wasn't what we were giving them all the time. Like we were always we'd done like sketches and films and stuff, so they knew we were capable. I think we just underestimated their trust in us, I guess. We were just like, that's part of the reason that we wound up like starring in it. Like if I would have known what I know now, like, and we would have gotten funded, like we would have taken a different approach. We probably would have hired actors to portray Paul, Nick, and Josh. No, like seriously, I would have rather like worked on this and like directed it. I kind of like took a back seat because I knew that when we talked about it, we're like, okay, well, we have to be in it because everyone who's going to come for this Kickstarter is going to back it because we're going to star in it. Right. And I think that's where we misjudged them. And it was like, oh, well, they just want to support us because we're making a project, and they want to support us. They want to support the things we do because they like what we make. They don't like us. They like what we make. And so that's, I think, looking back, I wish we could have done that a little differently, but it worked out, man. Smart Guys is a lot of fun. I think people really enjoy it.
I do actually like you as an actor, Nick. We were seriously, when we were doing that project, that didn't get made. I thought you were funny. You were able to hit all those marks. I remember one night we were sitting around and doing a rehearsal, and I remember you were being over-directed by somebody. Right. And it's not me. I'm not making a joke about myself here, but you were being over-directed, and I said, my God, poor Nick. He is getting crushed up.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I've never wanted to be like in front of the camera. I always thought that I was like relatively at least kind of funny, but like I never really wanted to be like an on-camera thing. But then when I worked at Gamervision, they wanted us to be, like the One-Up show. They wanted the contributors to be part of the team. So people were like, wow, it looks like an awesome place to work. Or like Screw Attack. That looks like an awesome place to work. Those guys just screw around and make videos all day, which is what we did. But like, I never anticipated like being, I don't know, doing what we're doing or like acting or like, it just doesn't come naturally to me. I always find myself really struggling. And Smart Guys was like that too. I was like, I can't see us being the filmmakers and the actors in this. It's just too big a project, too insane to do both. So even like acting, I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous about acting. Even like nowadays, like it's still like a thing. I'm like, I got to like learn my lines and make sure I rehearse them all the time. It's really strange. It's really like a weird, stepping on the other side of that camera is a totally different world. It's so different.
Well, next time, how about this, Nick? You can cast me as you, and you can be the director, and I'll play Nick Murphy.
That's great.
And I'll grow my beard out. I'll make a fake beard. It'll be great.
That sounds
actually, I should play the other guy on Continue.
Yeah.
There's another bearded guy. Yep. I don't know what his name
Josh.
is.
Yeah, you could be Josh. Yeah, exactly.
And then there's the
and Paul. Yeah, Paul.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I only know you.
It's all good, man.
I mean, I have watched the show. I swear to God.
No, dude, it's totally fine.
But I like Smart Guys, and I was actually ask you, is there ever a time you think where you guys in Continue are going to maybe, try to crowdfund a movie?
Maybe.
Or maybe some other project, maybe?
I think in some other capacity. Doing a Kickstarter, I think I learned a lot. I mean, it's 3 years later and we underestimated A, how long it would take, B, how long the filmmaking process would take. We were used to like banging out projects real quick. This was the first time we hired like an outside crew, and everything was outside of our control. And I mean, luckily we had like a budget to do all that stuff, but like I think we all underestimated how long that process would take. And now like the rewards process is like still ongoing. We're in the process, like the discs are being duplicated, as we speak, and like we're waiting for that, and then we're going to ship all that stuff. It's a big undertaking, and I think if we were to do like another kind of like crowdfunded kind of thing, I think it would have to be for something big that we, I see like there's a couple of filmmaking friends that I'm friends with that like crowdfund a project like every year, and for me, I'm just like, I don't know. A, I don't know how you do that. B, I don't know how you can keep like asking people to donate to every project that you're doing, and like, I don't know, it just seems like very taxing. So I want to make sure it's something that we know will be good. We want to pour like our heart and soul into. But I like these kind of like smaller crowdfunding ideas. Like the next thing that we're doing, the next kind of like web show we're going to do, we're going to try to support through Patreon. So with our podcast, we did, we sold some like advertising things through like, regular podcasting kind of stuff like Audible and stuff like that. But like, I think this next project will be like kind of like a podcast web show kind of format. We're still like finishing getting to production. We're like almost close to getting to film. But I think that one what we'll do is we'll wind up doing like something like Patreon, where it's like, hey, we're going to make ongoing content all the time. You can have access to some of the stuff as we're doing it, as like a reward. But the more you help, the more it helps us make stuff on the regular. So I think that's a little more appealing to me, because it's regular content all the time instead of like one big thing. It's daunting to do like a big crowdfunding project. It's filmmaking stuff. I don't think people like understand how long it takes. Like, luckily, all of our backers on Smart Guys have been like super cool. I think we've just been like real with everybody. We're like, look, this is how long it's taking. This is the process we're at. I don't want to rush it. Like every person who's kind of like, hey, what's the status? I'm like, look, we could just put it out, but it'd be something that we're not happy with, and ultimately you as the person who backed us wouldn't be happy with it either. Like, as much as I want you to see this, I want you to see it in its best form possible and the best representation of myself and my work. So I'm actively working to make it that. So if you could just give me some more time, that'd be great. And everyone is like super understanding. We've not had like any issues with like any backers. It's been great. It's been awesome.
And that's great. And I think, it has been that way because, like you said, you've been real. Also, because I think you're also producing, other content. Because I'm sure like 99.9% of those backers were fans of Continue.
Yeah.
So they can see you're actually out there doing stuff. So it's not just... What I've noticed is the problems with the crowdfunding campaigns always comes in when people go silent.
Right.
And they sort of have to start saying, where's that, I don't know, adult coloring book?
Right.
Where's the I don't know, potato salad recipe. I don't know. But,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, both of those were actually instances, there was that one guy who crowdfunded and he raised much more than he thought, and he couldn't handle the stress of it. And he started burning copies of the book.
Oh yeah. I heard about that. Yeah.
And then the other guy was the potato salad guy. But anyways, yeah, I think it's because you've been real. And I mean, honestly, it's great to see somebody in the Philadelphia area, building an audience like this. You go onto YouTube and then you do, then you do Smart Guys, then you can do then you can parlay that into another project with a little more money. So you know what I mean? Like you get more money, you get more trust, you can build a bigger audience, throw better, get better reach because of the way that everything is now, marketing is so important now.
Yeah. It's really strange. All of that I'm just terrible at. Like, I don't know how any of that comes about. It's so weird. Like I think when you've been doing for something for so long, you don't know any other way except the way you've been doing it. Like, I see like other movies that are coming out of like the Philadelphia area and like, they're getting like distribution deals. Like, I don't even know how that happens. I have no idea how any of any of that comes into play. All I know is like what I've been doing. And like, it's so weird because like there's a couple like filmmaker people we were talking to, and they were like, wow, you guys just like put content all the time. How do you guys have this following? And we're like, I don't know. We just do it. It's like, you got a movie produced. How did you do that? How did you get a deal with Amazon? How did you get your thing on Amazon Prime? How did you get your thing on Netflix, man? Like, that's what I want to know. I want to know about that, you know? So it's like, it's cool. Like Philly is this weird area where all this interesting content is like coming out all the time, and like nobody knows about any of it, you know?
Yeah.
It's so nuts. Yeah. It's like, for as small as we are, we all should be like together all the time, like trying to make our city stand out, but like everyone's just kind of doing their own thing and like splitting off, you know?
I was on a film set one time, and the DP said, you know, how come everyone doesn't just get together, like all the best of the best get together and make something? And I said, that will end in tears. Trust me, that will end in tears. You know, and I mean, so what movie was it that you were just referring to?
There's a couple guys who make like,
is it Joe?
I'm trying to remember. No, there's a couple guys who've done like a few, like they've done some like documentaries around here, and it seems like they have like.
Oh, Richard Wilson?
No.
Is it Ron DiPietro?
No, so you're naming all these people, and I'm like, I don't know who they are. Why don't I know who all these people are?
Is it Mike Biaselli?
No. It's just there's so much stuff around here like coming out, and like nobody knows about it. Like, I don't know about that. I don't know about them, and I'm sure they don't know about me. You know what I mean? So like it's kind of like this weird thing. Like there should be like this kind of network of, I guess everyone's just kind of doing their own thing and trying to like make it. Nobody has time to like network and stuff, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, here's the thing, Nick. Everyone always tells me that networking is like one of my best skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, you know, I finally have come to terms with that, because usually they mean that in sort of like a, hey, you should be my producer, you should be my whatever. And I usually kind of like, nah, that's okay. But, you know, that's why I really didn't want to sort of embrace that. But, you know, now I've embraced it. I realize now networking is a really good skill of mine. And that's why I've been able to sort of finagle this podcast, because honestly, man, I just opened up my Rolodex. I mean, some people have been gotten through Twitter. And some people, you know, I've been introduced to through, you know, email, whatever. But I mean, you know, it really is, you know, networking is a very important skill to have, especially nowadays in the film industry.
Yeah, no, totally, man. I agree.
So, you know, just to continue on about, you know, Smart Guy Show, you know, your director, I wanted to ask, you know, because this was her first directing gig, right?
Yeah. So Jess, was someone I went to school with, and she's a good friend of mine. So that was like early on, we knew that we couldn't handle being behind the camera and being like in front of the camera. Like I wanted to direct this whole thing, but I knew that I couldn't. So, we asked my friend Jess. She's done some short films. She's done a lot of documentaries and a lot of, she was working part-time for HBO, for their boxing, wing, doing video stuff. And, you know, we did like kind of like this short little shoot with her of like one of our continued shorts. And, we liked working with her. She was just easygoing and a lot of fun to work with. So like we, you know, hired her to direct Smart Guys. I think she did a great job. I'm super happy with it. Yeah.
You know, cause, I wanted to ask because, you know, you got a female director, then, you know, there is a push to get more females behind the camera. And also because this was her first gig. And I was thinking to myself, I wonder how stressed out she was because, you know,
yeah, she was like, she was juggling. She had a lot of hats to wear. I mean, it's like, she was part director, like uncredited producer. I mean, that's kind of like what every director winds up being, but like, yeah, she was all over the place. I mean, at one point, I think like our third day of shooting, she like lost her voice. But it was nice because we were only shooting on weekends, so she had some time to recover. But yeah, it was pretty stressful. And I remember her being kind of stressed out, but like not showing it on set. Like I knew she was stressed just because we're friends and I know her. But like, yeah, man, it was a big undertaking. She like took it like she dominated it. And it was great. And yeah, there is like this big push for a lot of female directors and stuff. And I think it's awesome. Like that thought like never really like crossed our mind, I guess, until like one day on set, we were like, oh, cool. We have like female director and a female like, assistant director and female script supervisor. We have a female PA, female behind the scenes person. And it was like, I don't know. It wasn't like a conscious thing to be like, we need to hire all these people like that. But it was just like, oh, that's awesome. Because filmmaking can be like a very like male dominated kind of thing. But it was cool. It was just cool like looking around like that, you know?
Yeah, totally. Because when Kazian Ilviz was on the podcast, he was actually mentioning, that's what a lot of his push was, because he was actually doing a Indiegogo at the time to bring 2 female directors to Sundance with him on a private workshop. So, awesome. Kazian, he did Dallas Buyers Club and all those other A-list movies, and how I got him on my podcast, I will never know.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. That's cool.
Yeah, he agreed to talk to me, and hasn't talked to me since. No, I'm actually just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I was actually just talking to him the other day through Twitter messaging. But Kazian's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And Nick, I'm so glad that Smart Guys. It was like we said. It's always it can't always be what we want it to be. You know what I mean? Like sometimes like you said before. There's certain things you look at and you're like, oh man, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that?
Yeah, no, man, it's always like,
but I'm glad.
Yeah, it worked out like great. And it's always in hindsight. And it's always like, man, if we'd only had one more day, or like 2 more hours at this location, we could have really like gotten what we wanted, or like 2 more takes. I think we would have nailed it, but like, it is what it is.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I'm just glad, I'm happy for you. And I'm glad to see that, you're rocking and rolling.
Thanks.
And, I think it's just amazing, Nick.
Thanks, man. Dude, I'm glad you're doing this whole podcast, man. It's awesome to see like so many film people. It's not just like local people, man. You're getting like awesome people on here. It's very cool.
Oh, well, thank you. Part of the reason I started this podcast was I got a little burned out making films. I'm going to be honest with you, because I would get things lined up and then somebody else would like take the credit, and then they, and that project we were working on was like almost, I think it was probably my breaking point. Because I got us a tank on that set, Nick.
Right.
I got us a freaking tank.
That's awesome.
And we had to take it off the table because, the project didn't go the way that I foresaw it going. So I had to gracefully bow out.
Right.
There's some problems, but
Well, yeah, man.
Anyways,
sometimes that happens, man. Sometimes it's like you're working with people, and sometimes people aren't giving you the best of themselves, and that's you have no choice but to back out. Trust me, man, I try really hard to not like burn bridges and try to be like super pleasant, but like sometimes you can't please everybody, and sometimes you're just going to make enemies every once in a while. It sucks, but that's just kind of like the nature of doing business.
Yeah. Now we should talk about all the enemies that we have.
No.
So let's start shit talking people. Let's start burning bridges left and right. But Nick, in closing, because I know we've been talking for a while now, and I'm sure you're probably tired of talking.
No, man, I could talk all day, man. That's what I get paid to do.
Nick, I'm going to ask this question to you because I have a feeling that some people probably would want to know this, but for somebody whether they just graduated college or maybe if they're in their late 30s, early 40s, and if they want to be where you are, they want to be able to do the whole podcast thing, they want to be able to do the whole YouTube show, and do film and stuff like that. What advice would you have for them?
Oh man, I don't even know where I am for them to get to. No, man, it's just about like staying busy. It's just about just doing stuff. Like you can't get good at something unless you're doing it. If you're just thinking about it all the time, you're not actively like, I could think about carpentry all day, but it doesn't mean that I'm actually going to be a good carpenter or painting. I could think about the most beautiful paintings in the world, but it doesn't mean I can commit, paint to canvas to make it that. You only get that by like practicing, man. It's that 10,000 hours thing, man. And you have to keep doing it. I was lucky enough, and I'm sure you are too, that like, while I was making all of the terrible things that I made, a lot of it wasn't on YouTube. It wasn't online. I had to like, edit with 2 VCRs hooked up together. So like the only people I could ever show would be people I'm physically in the room with, that I brought a tape to show them, or that like there wasn't this mass distribution thing. So I think I like got good at getting notes and showing people stuff. Like it's got to be hard to be like a young filmmaker and putting your stuff online, and it's just out there, and it's like always out there forever now. Like people can always watch your most terrible thing, man. It's got to be tough for people, but it's just the sign of the times. Like you have to make terrible stuff to get better. You just have to like keep doing stuff. Like, and whatever people want to pursue, man, they just have to like do it. There's no reason not to, especially like filmmaking now, man. Like for $1,000, you could buy like a great camera, and make a little movie with that. You can make a great camera on your iPhone. It doesn't matter. That's just the paintbrush, man. Having like a super expensive paintbrush doesn't make you a good painter. You just have to put in the work and do it. So like there's literally no reason that people should not be like making things all the time, and if someone is young listening to this, you have all the time in the world, man. You don't have responsibilities and stuff. None of your life is going to get in your way. You have all those experiences as you're making all that stuff. So just make stuff. Just make films and do good.
You're absolutely right, Nick. Just to sort of put a period at all of this. I actually have 2 films that I didn't want released, and they're up online right now. And I have worked my way. I was like, please take my name off these. Like, they were submitted for a film festival in 2008 or 9, man. and I keep telling them, like, I didn't want these to be released publicly. Please take them off,
dude.
And they're shit on a shingle.
Yeah,
like people, like every once in a while, somebody will find one and be like, "Hey, Dave, blah blah blah." I'm like, no, it's garbage. Right. Just don't fucking watch that.
Well, dude,
like, what's wrong with you?
It's always like that, man. Everybody has like that weird IMDb credit. You're like, that shouldn't be on there.
Yeah. I have an IMDb credit for Paranormal Activity #1.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah. That's my one claim to fame, Nick.
And what did you do on it?
I actually helped. I got a special thank you credit because I actually was a part of a marketing team thing, like a street team thing, and they gave me a thank you credit in the movie.
Oh, dude, that's awesome, man.
I actually, a guy I actually know used to work with Oren Patelli at Sony. And one day, Oren came in and said, "Hey, I just sold my movie to Steven Spielberg, and I'm putting in my 2 weeks." And they were like, "Yeah, right." Yeah. And then he was serious. And then they were like, they actually saw the trailers for it and everything, and the commercials for it. And they were like, "Holy crap!" So they were like, and his last day was a freaking mob scene, of course, because they were like, "Oh my God, how did you do all this?"
Yeah. What are you talking about? So you got a ton of IMDb credits, man. It's good stuff.
Oh, you're looking me up right now?
Yeah.
Ooh, all right, Nick.
Hey, you got a lot of good stuff, man.
Nick, one final question, and it's up to you. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you may have wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to? I mean, this is completely open-ended. Anything you sort of want to say, maybe that to put a period at the end of this whole conversation?
No, man. I'm just glad to be here. I'm glad to be making films and having opportunities that I have, and I hope to have many more down the road. I talked about all kinds of stuff, man. I'm good.
Where can we find you at online, Nick?
Probably the best place. My website is heynickmurphy.com. On Twitter, I'm heynickmurphy. And those are probably like the 2 best places, I guess, to see. If you want to see my web show Continue, it's at youtube.com/continue show. And Smart Guys, you can find it on our website, makefilmdogood.com.
And I will link to everything Nick and I talked about, everyone, in the show notes.
Cool.
So all you have to do is head over to davebullis.com and look for this episode, and you'll be able just to click it very easily. One-click links. You'll be able to go and harass Nick on Twitter like I do. And I'm on Twitter, everybody. It's at Dave_Bullis. Nick, I'm actually trying to get Twitter to give me the @Bullis username because some guy has it. Yeah, some guy named Al Rhinoski or something has it, and I was like, how the hell does he have @Bullis? Like, his name's not Bullis. What the fuck is that? So I keep telling Twitter to give it to me, and they keep saying no. So
is he like active on there?
Nope, not at all. He's got an egg for a photo, unless he really is an egg. Yeah. I don't know. But because
there should be like a better way to do real stuff on Twitter. Like I feel like some I'm totally not like name dropping, but I have like friends who have like millions of subscribers on YouTube and like hundreds of thousands of like followers, and like they can't get like verified on Twitter. It doesn't make any sense how. And then I have like some friends who have like 800 followers and they are like verified. I don't understand how it works at all. It's just a very weird thing.
Yes, I concur, and I really think if Twitter could be better if they just did a couple things here and there. Honestly, they don't care what I say, Nick. They just don't care. I'm just a lonely little cog in the wheel.
Right. I think we all are at this point.
For someone in Howard Stern to get verified, I think it was when the former CEO, I forget his name, he walked in there and one of the Stern staffers was like, "Can you please verify me?" And he actually took out his phone and was able to verify him right then and there.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I need to know some people on Twitter, man. That's what I need.
Yeah, seriously. Then we can bring it down from the inside.
Yeah, right.
Nick Murphy, it's been a pleasure, sir.
Likewise.
And I just want to say, please, if you ever want to come back on, Christ, Nick, it's been a while since we talked last.
Yeah. It was good to catch up. Yeah. Anytime, man. You have a last minute cancellation, man, I'll jump on anytime.
Cool, buddy. Nick, I want to thank you and I wish you the best, man.
Thanks, man. Likewise.
Take care, buddy.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Find Dave at davebullis.com. Please make sure to subscribe and share the podcast.